Batman the Animated Series was renowned for introducing bold new villains and reimagining dusty old classics for a modern audience. But not every invention was a hit. Take for instance Roxy Rocket, created by Bruce Timm and Paul Dini. She was an attempt to catch lightning in a bottle for a second time following the monumental success of Harley Quinn. Roxanne Sutton had been a thrill-seeking stuntwoman who turned to crime for the thrill of it. She rode a very phallic rocket around Gotham, and all she wanted was the adrenaline rush of evading capture. But it may surprise you to learn that Timm and Dini first introduced her in the pages of the Batman the Animated Series tie-in comic, Batman Adventures. And they did this for a very clear reason. Because Harley Quinn was created directly for animation, Timm and Dini were not entitled to standard comic creator royalties. So with Roxy, they made sure to put her on the comic book page before she ever made it to the screen. It was a sound strategy. It's just a shame that she never really caught on with audiences. Still, Roxy has her fans, and she is one of the animated characters who made her way to the mainline comic books and has appeared in other shows like Justice League Action. But when the time came for Batman Caped Crusader's second season to enter production, it's very interesting to note how the writers radically reinvented her. And it may not surprise you to hear that she was up for reinvention, given that the first season gave us a bold, more psychology-centric version of Harley Quinn. And of course, the executive producer is Bruce Timm. While I gather that he had minimal involvement in Season 2, it stands to reason that another one of his co-creations would get the spotlight. What's funnier is the fact that they completely strip away the lightheartedness of the character and gave her a Batman the Animated Series style tragic reimagining, which is doubly funny given that Paul Dini spearheaded that whole thing on Beatass. So right from the get-go, they never actually call her Roxy Rocket. No, she is Dr. Roxanne Sutton, a genius inventor and a bit of a dreamer. She notes that the world is in terrible shape with poverty, disease and war spreading across the globe. She believed that humanity's future lay in exploring space, and she had developed a cheap, clean, long-lasting form of energy called Ultrium. This would power her rocket-based technology. The issue was that innovation can be expensive and she needed investors. And this brings us to the real villains of the story, the three partners of Triad, a consortium of companies that invested in Roxy's tech. Yeah, sure, Triad can generally be used to refer to three anythings, but the fact that it's also the name for the Chinese mob makes the connection to criminality very obvious. And the three partners running Triad may be familiar to Batman fans: Warren Lawford, Armand Lydecker, and Gunther Hardwick. The Terrible Trio. In the comics, they were thieves who wore animal-themed masks, while in Batman the Animated Series they were bored millionaires who committed crime to entertain themselves. So you can immediately see the string connecting them to Roxy. It's thrill-seeking. But here, the trio are just your garden variety of greedy CEOs. They invested everything they had in Roxy's tech, and in order to reclaim that investment, they started seeking contracts with anyone and everyone, including enemies of America. When Roxy learned how they were misusing her inventions, she declared that they were in breach of their contract, that she was withdrawing from the partnership, and that she was going to sue them. Their response was simple: plant a bomb in her home and erase the problem entirely. But Roxy survived by shielding herself inside one of her own prototypes, escaping with her life but leaving with a nasty scar across her face. Now, months later, she's back wearing a distinctly Rocketeer-looking costume that also evokes the comic characters Bullet Man and Bulleteer, and she wants revenge. Immediately, I see parallels to how Paul Dini reimagined Mr. Freeze in Batman the Animated Series. Freeze had originally just been a cold-themed bank robber in the comics, but Dini made him a tragic man who had been wronged. Freeze's beloved wife Nora had been taken from him, but for Roxy, she was robbed of her inventions, her future, and her faith in humanity. And yeah, the scarred face clearly didn't help, but it's not one of her motivators. However, where Freeze turned to murder, Roxy would rather ruin the trio by destroying every piece of her tech that they still have in their possession. So she still has the moral high ground. She's just taking back what was stolen from her. And when she blows up their facility, she makes sure to announce her plans, telling the staff on site to get out before it's too late. Likewise, when she raids Triad's train to destroy the Ultrium, she uses non-lethal methods on the guards. Similarly, she defends Batman when the guards try to shoot him, taking a shotgun blast to the face in his place. Batman immediately sympathizes with her, assuming that she had been harmed in an accident. But when he learns that it was attempted murder, he tells her that, as they are criminals, he will bring them to justice. But Roxy isn't so convinced and sets off a series of explosions to destroy her lab. While she flies out, Batman quickly grabs her schematics and heads off. Now, I thought this would set up the possibility of Batman using Roxy's tech in his own Crusade. He notes that her weapons are so powerful that they'd cut through the police like butter.
But it's clear to him that no one can be trusted with this technology.
Case in point, Lawford sets up a demonstration of one of Roxy's rockets for foreign dignitaries. A little slice of the future that they can buy at wholesale prices. While they may put on a bold performance, in reality they're up to their necks in debt. Roxy's campaign against them has destroyed 4 of their sites and the majority of the Ultrium. They've only got 1 brick left, and they don't yet know how to make more, so if this test fails, they are ruined. While Lydecker urges caution and suggests postponing the demonstration until they're certain that they've ironed out the kinks, Hardwick is more bullish. Or should that be sharkish? And he says they don't have the time to waste. They must sign contracts immediately. Lawford is the tiebreaker, and he agrees to proceed with the test. Roxy knows all this, and she fears that by selling the tech to anyone that will pay, it would cause endless war and suffering. And in some very pointed commentary, Hardwick turns up, shoots Roxy with a laser gun based on her own designs, and tells her that what she's describing is just business. Unlike Hardwick, Roxy has a conscience. She had dreamed of a better future for humanity, and instead these small, talentless men have taken her work and intend to use it to perpetualize the nightmare that they're all living in, just for making a lot of money. Roxy's plan is to sabotage the rocket test, which will cause the potential buyers to walk out and bankrupt the Triad, and Batman agrees to help her. And let's compare this partnership to the old Batman and Roxy relationship. She too wasn't interested in hurting people, and she wasn't out to make money, she just wanted to feel alive. But Batman wouldn't indulge her schemes, even if technically no one was hurt. Their relationship, if you could even call it that, was entirely one-sided. A little flirty, yes, but there were clear boundaries. Here, Batman is her ally and he wants to help her achieve her mission. The fact that he turns his back on big business, despite being one of the Triad's peers, indicates that he can see how broken the world is and that he wants to do something to help fix things. So Batman engages with Hardwick and his men, allowing Roxy to go after the rocket, which Lawford has hastily launched. Hardwick is confident that there's nothing Roxy can do to stop the rocket now that it's taken off, but she designed the thing, she knows how it works, and most importantly, what it will take to break it. Once the rocket explodes, Batman doesn't need to keep fighting. The Triad has been defeated. They've lost their money and influence, and now the truth will come out. And this results in the trio being found guilty of treason. Because they don't know how the technology works, they have nothing to offer and are sent to prison. Batman, meanwhile, takes the last remaining schematics to the site of Roxy's old lab and burns them. Yes, he could do some real good with that technology, but the world just wasn't ready for that kind of innovation. Better to remove the temptation entirely and honor Roxy's wishes. It's a mournful ending, despite Batman's success. Of course, this isn't the first time that Roxy had been caught in an explosion. They never discover her body, so for all we know, Roxy Rocket could fly again. But without a mission to get behind, I'd be surprised if she did. Now, what makes this reinvention so fascinating is the brilliant meta-irony buried under the surface. As I mentioned earlier, Roxy Rocket was originally born out of Bruce Timm and Paul Dini trying to protect the fruits of their creative labour from corporate suits who would happily reap the profits of an inventor's genius while leaving that creator with peanuts. Dini and Timm learned from their past mistakes and protected themselves by putting Roxy in the comics first, only to be foiled by the fact that she never really took off. Fast forward decades later to Cape Crusader, and Roxanne Sutton's entire story is a dark narrative mirror of that real-world struggle. She is an innovator fighting a losing battle against corporate suits who view her life's work as nothing more than an asset to exploit and monetize. Dini and Timm beat the suits with a publishing contract. Roxanne Sutton tried to beat them in court, only to learn that in Gotham, corporate greed doesn't just hire lawyers, it plants bombs and crushes dreams. But where do you stand on her reinvention? Do you miss the wild, thrill-seeking adrenaline junkie of the 90s, or do you prefer this grounded, tragic redesign of Roxanne Sutton? Let me know in the comments, because I will be reading every single one of them. Special thanks as ever to my channel members who helped to make this video possible. If you want to see your name on screen and get early access to all of my upcoming video essays, then join the channel now. Thanks for watching everyone, see you next time.